Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I will be talking about mediation when culturally and linguistically diverse elders are involved in a dispute or conflict. My name is Vesna Cvjeticanin. I'm a mediator, a lawyer by profession, and also a professional interpreter in Serbian English and the other way around. I would like to set the scene for today's talk with a finding from a 2023 research study. And I would like to say that all the resources and sources that I've used are mentioned in my notes, and I'm happily going to share them with you. And the Resolution Institute colleagues will be making that recording available. Older cold adults in Australia felt a sense of disconnectedness from the wider society, especially with respect to feelings of belonging. Low English proficiency was the most common barrier for conditions, including loneliness and social isolation. So it is from February 2023, almost only a couple of years ago, published in the Gerontologist. And with that, I would just like to invite you to think about your own experiences. Being in your own country and speaking your own mother tongue. And I'm talking to all of you who are of English-speaking background and all of those of you who are not of non-English speaking background. So just for a second, think about the importance of talking in your own language, of thinking in your own language, and being in your own country. And in this, I would like to acknowledge the country that I'm coming from here. It's the Ngunnawal and Ngambri country on which Canberra is sitting. And I have been living here for 35 years. I will give you an overview, an outline of what this hour is going to be. So there will be, despite the fact it's fairly short in an hour, and this is a massive topic. There is this introduction, the welcome, and in the presentation itself, I will be talking about the main reasons why elder mediation is appropriate when called elders are involved, relevant research findings, the statistics and data, and why it is different and how. In a nutshell, I will be in closing give you some key information about Elder Mediation Australasian Network, its approach, and training that is coming up very soon on the 24th of March, just in case I omit to say it later on. And EMIN, which is the Elder Mediation International Network, and what is it and its objectives. In the third part of this presentation, I will give you a quick outline of issues in a case study that I decided to talk about. And I know that in my notes for the promotion of this presentation, I said a couple of those, but considering the time we have and possible questions, I thought it was safer in terms of times to give you one study and a case study. And also the final bit will be about resources and Q&A that will be your time to ask further questions. I don't mind being interrupted during the presentation. I just need to be mindful of time so that I can cover everything that I prepared. And also comments, and I would love to hear your suggestions for the future presentations. The significance of understanding, and just to say that I am actually sharing everything, the slides and also my notes, and I hope you don't mind that, and it is not going to be too distracting. I think it's important that we do have and share the notes as well. The significance of understanding culture and language barriers in a mediation setting is of essence to run an appropriately set, designed, and facilitated mediation session. These aspects are of particular importance when culturally and linguistically diverse elders, and I will be calling them cold elders, are involved in the process. in this presentation, I will not be talking about the mediation process and techniques themselves, but I will focus on the issues that warrant a modified approach to mediation in such circumstances. And people who have an understanding of elder mediation will realize that, or it is a fact, that elder mediation process and techniques are slightly different, or in some instances, maybe very different from a classic facilitated mediation process. But then when we add into the mixture the cultural and linguistically diverse backgrounds of people who participated in it and add the age, then there are a lot of other variables in the process or differences. To start, I would like to say what culturally and linguistically diverse background means, and that's a definition derived from an analysis of what it means to be culturally and linguistically diverse. And the definition says many older, or actually many Australians, but I will put the older here as well, were born overseas, so that's one element. They have parents who were born overseas, or have a preferred language other than English that they use in their daily life. And older, for our purposes, and generally accepted in Australia, means over 65 years of age for non-Indigenous population. And I would like to say that in this presentation, I won't be talking about mediating in Indigenous populations, because it's not my area of specialty, but would like to say that for non-Indigenous population, the older applies from the age of 50. Also, to provide reliable information supported by evidence, my focus in this presentation will be on the residential aged care facilities setting. I did indicate prior to the presentation that there might be issues that arise between healthcare providers, family members, neighborhood, etc. A lot of reliable data and quite a bit of research has been done in the area of called elders in the residential aged care facilities. So I've sort of narrowed it and funneled the information I have on those circumstances or those settings. I also would like to say, and I didn't mention it before, that I might use NESP, non-English speaking background. That's a term that was previously used, and I somehow quite like that, but there are reasons why they changed from NESP to CULD. The importance of culture. There was a very good, a very interesting and very telling article in the International Journal of Qualitative Studies on Health and Well-being from 2018, so quite 7 years ago, Aging Well in a Foreign Land as a Process of Successful Social Identity Change. And it's a good read, and I recommend you go there and find more about what it says. But I've extracted what is the importance of culture in our work with called elders in mediation. Perceived disconnection between the past and present is associated with negative effects, anxiety, alienation, depression, and even suicide in elder people. And feeling connected with one's roots allows migrants to experience a sense of belonging. And where this occurred, it was associated with enhanced well-being. And there is a really nice summary of all of this that I found. It says people find comfort in the knowledge that their past and present are connected. There is, and I would like to say, and from my own experience in people in my ethnic community, which is a Serbian community in Canberra and Australia, that linkage between our past, the country in which I grew up and spent first 28 years of my life, and being in Australia and living in Canberra in a city which I spent 35 years, as I mentioned before, of my life, that really makes a huge difference when I can link the two. And being part and belong to the local community gives me a lot of strength and inner optimism to actually live the life and link into the broader community. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. The significance, and it's coming here, the significance of acknowledging cultural and language differences. It really helps the individuals preserve their sense of specific cultural identity. We do all have roots. We do, like a tree, we draw energy, satisfaction, happiness, a sense of well-being from strong roots. Belonging to our respective ethnic community, and safety and familiarity with and within that ethnic community. However, there is a broader benefit in all of that and a flow and effect. It's the that once feeling confident in their own individuality, people more easily integrate into broader Australian society and develop an ability to function more independently. And that is a very important aspect and element in our approach to called elders, and especially as mediators, being professionals that deal with people on a daily basis and need to be aware and need to be sensitive of those specific elements. Different cultural background is linked to the use of one's mother tongue, both of which influence the life of older called individuals as well as their families. So it's not just a culture. Sometimes it is culture and people don't speak the language, but then on the other hand, culture and language are very, very often, in many instances, in older people, very closely related. I would like to mention factors that impact elder mediation in general, and then have a particular little focus on the called elders in this slide. What we see is the changes in the age and accompanying demographic profiles of called population. We have people who have come here after the Second World War, let's say, if we just focus on that part, not considering the early arrivals. People who are still with us, there are many of them in the 90s, 80s, 90s. They have families, they have developed their lives, they grew older and wiser in this society. But the fact is that we all live longer. So it's not only the generation of our parents, we are seeing generation of our grandparents, and the other way around. Our grandparents see us and their grandchildren and their children again. So it's a multi-generational issue or issues that can arise. And that's a topic on its own. And it's a very, very topic that is dear to my heart, because I myself, being part of that multi-generational family setting, I'm very aware of that and what it means for the older generation, but also for the younger. And that is the second point, multi-generational family structure, which is related to a longer lifespan. Multicultural aspects of the Australian society and the population aging process overall. Specific needs from the point of view of understanding, feeling of security, trust, a multitude of deeply felt emotional, physical needs. So we always talk about, psychological well-being, emotional well-being, and physical health and well-being. They are very, very closely interconnected. General mediation practice should be adapted to specific conditions in which at least one party is over 65 years of age and relevant to this presentation of a called background. And earlier I was saying that this is another layer of complexity in our approach to mediation. To illustrate further the vulnerable groups in our society, Sydney University's Center for Medical Psychology has actually specifically defined 5 groups that are particularly vulnerable in our society. They are the ones who have low literacy, or more broadly, low educational levels, culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds people who live in rural and remote areas, aging population, and carers. And I've highlighted culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds and aging because these are the elements that actually come into the picture in our focus here and in our focus here, as well as the low literacy. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. And as I said, please do understand that each of these could have been a separate topic of an hour and longer, and people do research into all these aspects. So I had a challenge, and I have to say that and share it with you. I had a challenge of really trying to summarize and make it meaningful, but then not put in too much information that actually is all fascinating and really would be useful. However, we don't have time for that, and I did need to think about that mediation and conflict in a cold aspects of our society or parts of our society. Key points about cold residents in residential aged care. Now I'm focusing on those RAC facilities. Approximately 30% of older Australians are considered cold, with 6% of older Australians speaking no English. As at 30th of June 23, RAC services in Australia supported a total of close to, probably now has reached 200,000. I haven't checked the latest figures. I couldn't find them at the moment. 200,000 people, and around 20% of RAC residents were born in a non-main English-speaking country. And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that there is this slightly nuance or change in non-main English-speaking country. And I would like to say, let's say Canada, or let's think of some other countries where English is not, where English is a main language, of official language, and countries in which, so there is that distinction, non-main English-speaking country. And please note the distinction between being born in a non-main English-speaking country and people of the cold background. And of course, that the latter is a much broader category and has a bigger span. Well over 2 million older adults from cold backgrounds live in Australia, and that's from 2018, and I would say that figure keeps growing, and there is data actually showing that, but that's not the focus of today. Language barriers and a lack of culturally appropriate care, and I've highlighted them here, are challenges for cold residents in aged care facilities. This also applies to services provided in the community, in legal, in health, in administrative settings, and family relationships as well. And I have provided sources here for you. That vulnerability that we recognized in this 7th slide and the lack of data also need to be linked, and actually we need to recognize that. Australians living in RAC facilities represent some of the least healthy and most vulnerable members of the community, and frequently suffer from acute, chronic, and complex conditions. And this is actually coming from Monash University, the practice, and it stands for Primary Health and Aged Care Translation Interpreting Services. So it is something where people have done research, and there is academic let's say, group of people who actually look into this. And not surprisingly, also those findings say there is little data on current communication practices in Australian RAC facilities for residents with limited English proficiency. Culturally appropriate communication, including speaking in mother tongue, where needed and possible is an essential element of adequate and quality age and healthcare. And all of you who were involved, or if anyone has been involved in last year's discussions around New Aged Care Act, actually have seen some mention of those culturally appropriate care. And I would probably say, from my own perspective, that there could have been done more work done on that. And I did raise it in one of the consultation settings in the first half of last year. But also prior to that, the findings of the Royal Commission into aged care facilities has also recognized the importance of having culturally and linguistically educated staff, and also use of interpreters, and being aware and providing staff that are of bilingual or maybe trilingual skills made a huge difference to those residents who were provided with those services, culturally appropriate and in an appropriate language. And now something that I really wanted to talk about, it's the incidence of conflict in residential aged care facilities and mediation. And someone might say, oh, good data, so we know what's a potential for us to